All right, stand by. 10 seconds.
Camera one.
Talent.
Ready, camera two.
And cue talent.
1.
Roll for record.
Minimum wage protesters should be careful what they wish for. I'm John Phillips, and McDonald's is back at the top of today's rundown. Low-wage workers who've been protesting for $15 an hour are realizing they may not have thought things through all the way. Listen to Douglas Hunter. He's a cook at McDonald's. He currently makes $9.25 an hour and has been aggressively protesting for more money in conjunction with the National Fight for $15 campaign. But if it's the size of Kirstie Alley's, Mr. Hunter has just learned that at $15 an hour, he's going to get kicked off Chicago's free health care program for the poor. Oh, no. And that's a problem because he's diabetic and has a ton of medical expenses. Welcome to the crappy world of paying your own bills, sir. So what's he going to do if he gets the raise he's been campaigning for? Well, he's going to work less. That's what he's going to do. At $15, he figures he'd need to reduce his total work hours to ensure his new income didn't disqualify him from his current benefits. But that's assuming he'll even have the choice to work fewer hours because, as we know, as the minimum wage goes up, businesses invest more money in automation and actually tend to cut employees' hours whether they like it or not, or lay workers off completely. So we've gone from a society that values and rewards hard work to a society that actively punishes work through wage mandates and subsidies paid for by you and me. Joining me to talk about all this stupidity, which is what it is author and political satirist from his home studio in the great state of Texas, Mr. Scott Ott, and here in Southern California, stand-up comic and PJTV contributor, Stephen Cruiser. You know, there's always the law of unintended consequences, Stephen, where you think, if I had $15 an hour, everything would be peachy. I'd have money to do what I want to do. I could move out of mom's house. I can pay the child support for my kids, and life will be harmonious. But then they find out, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to lose my benefits. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to lose my government health care. And then it all blows up in their face like a hillbilly's rifle.
Well, one of the main talking points about this that's being put out there about the $15 an hour thing is it will lift them out of poverty. So I don't know why this guy can't afford his health insurance, because it lifts you out of it. If you're there, you got your yacht, you got your smoking jacket, and you're with Hef. But this thing is something I think we should just welcome, let them pass everywhere as quickly as they can. This reminds me of the Obamacare thing, where it was theoretical for the longest time, but once people had to live with the consequences, they went, hey, you know, maybe not so good with this. I say let them, everybody, you mentioned that they want to raise it to $22 an hour in Hollywood, right? Let them pass it in a hurry, let them find out how many jobs start getting cut, how quickly the automation comes in. I remember the last grocery strike here 14, 15 years ago, and then suddenly the little self-checkout thing started to pop up after that. Not so many grocery strikes since then.
You know, Scott, in Australia, they have a pretty high minimum wage. And I have friends that just went on vacation down there. And they said that all the mid-level restaurants like, say, a TGI Fridays or a Chili's or an On the Border, instead of going in and being sat by a hostess and having someone come up and bring you your water and take your order and that sort of thing, all of those restaurants are cafeteria-style seating, where you go up and you order your food, and then you go up and they call your number and you get your food, you bring it to your table, and that's how it works. I talk to people who own restaurants here. If McDonald's and Jack in the Box and Wendy's are forced to pay $15 an hour, they say, guess what? All of these restaurants, and even the mid-level restaurants, all of these restaurants are going to go to the Australian model, and these people are going to be out of work, and then what do?
Well, yeah, and you're going to more and more restaurants. I mean, I'm trying to think. I think maybe Applebee's has this. I know Red Robin has this in some locations, where there's a little iPad on the table. It's a little kiosk on the table, and you can actually place your order there. You can pay for your food there. You can make requests. You can, page a waiter if you need such a thing. There's some basic economics to running a restaurant. And if you're one of those people who really believes that every job in existence needs to pay a livable wage, so-called, whatever you establish that to be, for an entire family with one person working, well, then you need to only eat in restaurants that are paying a livable wage. If every Democrat in the country only ate in restaurants where they pay a livable wage, I think we would solve the poverty problem throughout America, wouldn't we?
And you know, technology is kind of changing this. Here in Los Angeles, in other big cities, we've seen food trucks pop up, gourmet food trucks,
Yes.
where they bring the food to your office, they bring the food to busy parts of the city, and you go to them and you get your food there, and it's like a mall food court right there in front of you. Uber is now doing Uber Eats, where you can order your lunch or order your dinner and have it delivered directly to you. That's another option, too, where technology could come in and fix this problem.
Yeah, and not even new technology. I mean, Amazon's getting into the grocery business now. You can order your stuff from Amazon Prime, and they'll bring the groceries to you. You know, bypassing all kinds of middle people there. The entrepreneurs will always be smarter and more forward-thinking than the government people will. But the insidious endgame I see playing out here for the government is that when the economic realities that Scott spoke about start to set in, the only way that they can keep up with this kind of nonsense is for the government to exert more and more regulatory control over the business. And say, well, you have to employ them this many hours a week. You have to employ these many human beings. You have to do this. You have to do that. They're already starting to do it with Obamacare a little bit. And there's this, you know, we've already removed so much of what businesses can do right now, saying, well, you have to serve these people. You have to serve these people. You have to serve these people. And no, we'll ruin you if you don't. And this, I just see this as another big grab of private industry by the government, which has no happy ending at all. There's no way that that works out well.
You know, Scott, we've got the endless lectures that these fast food jobs aren't for teenagers anymore. It's not just someone getting their first job and learning how to budget and learning how to pay taxes and learning the ways of the world that adults need to learn. That it's actual adults with children, with mortgages, with families they need to take care of, and this is their peak. This is their life's ambition, or the highest that they're going to go is to work for McDonald's. If those jobs get eliminated because it's now too expensive to keep them on the payroll, what do those people do? How do they make a living? If their skill set is just up to flipping hamburgers and those jobs don't exist, can you retrain them? Can you I guess put them in a high-tech industry or something new, or do they just go on the government dole?
Well, and the truth of the matter is, John, that is the attitude of a lot of people on the left. They see people as sort of born into a caste, and there's nothing else those people can do. This poor 53-year-old man who's, you know, sewing his daughter's prom dress by hand because he can't afford to buy her one, the only job he could ever get is flipping burgers at McDonald's. That's the peak. He can't be trained for anything else. He has no skills whatsoever. It's impossible. And I think that that is the most insulting and often racist thing that you hear from the left, is that we have classified these people as incapable of doing anything else. They are stripping them of their dignity, and they are hobbling them for any future accomplishment. The whole thing is absurd. And the whole other end of this, by the way, is the way the Cook County insurance program works, because this guy, I mean, there are government programs that are supposed to help people get up on their feet and get going. But what we see time and time again is that these programs phase out more quickly than the people, than their income can phase in to take over. And so people wind up saying, you know what? I'd be better off making less money and staying on public assistance. They're making a rational economic decision, which you may think is morally wrong, but it's not irrational.
I don't want to be too much of an alarmist here, but if you take these jobs away, which is what you're effectively doing to many of them if you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, you're going to have a lot of people that are sitting around at home and that are angry. We just saw riots go down in Baltimore. We saw riots in Ferguson, Missouri. The city that we're sitting in right now, Los Angeles, is burned to the ground twice, in the 60s and the 90s. I think that if you take these people out of their workplace and put them in front of a TV and just give them nothing to do, that you're really setting the stage for a disaster. Which,
in recent months, I've begun to believe is really the plan. Seriously, I do think you're setting people up for a disaster. You get, nobody wants to be on public assistance forever, despite the fact that people seem that they want to. There's this underlying agitation. You know, I've struggled financially. I know what it's like. It's not fun. And there's, you're right. If you expose them, the weird thing there is that they'll all still have cable, even though they're poor. Somehow, all the poor people in America have cable, but we're this poverty-stricken country. So it's going to create more unrest. And I also want to point out that the reason there are so many 53-year-olds working at McDonald's right now is because of this ever-expanding welfare state that needs to be fed by the American taxpayer. You can't have somebody stay at home, have one parent work anymore, and still have enough to retire on. Now you have two parents out there feeding the beast, and they still can't save enough to retire on, even though they're working their you-know-what's off. So that's a big part of the problem here. This very welfare state that they're all going to have to fall back on is being funded by the people who are paying taxes right now. It is this infinity loop of insanity right now that cannot work out well. We have to destroy this entitlement mentality that the left is selling wholesale right now.
All right, Stephen Cruz, you get the last word. So what do you think? Should unskilled workers get 15 bucks an hour, or are unintended consequences going to hurt the very workers they claim to help? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm John Phillips. Thanks so much for watching The Rundown.